Hello and welcome to the David and David on Real Estate Podcast. We are on episode number 124, and we have Stephen Whiting from StreetText returning us to us, and we're very excited because now we get to talk about some of the future things, some of the really cool technology that's coming, and how it's influencing and shaping the way that realtors are starting to do business in a different way and will do business in a very different way in the future. So, Stephen, welcome back to the podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. It's always fun. So thank you for having me again.
Well, great to have you back again, and let's dive right into it. So, what are your predictions for the future of real estate marketing?
Well, I mean, I think all the predictions for real estate marketing are exciting, right? When you look at AI, especially the initial kind of iterations of it and the things we're looking at, obviously with the large language models like OpenAI, is the first thing it's really done a great job of is really just help you with marketing. It's probably one of the lowest hanging kind of like, I guess, fruits, if you will, like where where if you have an idea but you're not necessarily sure how to where to take it, you can use OpenAI or ChatGTP to just kind of help craft that for you. And so we have seen a huge rise on the creative side within our community where, for instance, we work obviously with a lot of real estate agents, and a lot of them have great ideas. And I'm actually one of these people too, where I have an idea on something, but I'm not the best at writing it out, right? I'm not exactly sure what to say. But by just putting it out as, as natural language, like here's my idea, this is what I'd like to do. It's going to be on a Facebook ad. Then you allow AI to help craft that for you and even add in things like emojis and other stuff to kind of like just make it more interactive. And so I would say that's been a very exciting front. The other one that ChatGPT has really been helping out with is using the Dolly side. They can create images for you, and the images have really helped on ads. So if you think when you think about running ads, when people are on Facebook or Instagram, they are largely there to entertain themselves, right? Kill some time, maybe catch up on something, but we're all addicted to it. You just have to look at your phone, how much time you spend on your phone on certain apps to realize that you don't even know it, but you're, on social media or on some sort of platform. And when you're scrolling, what gets your attention isn't really what is said initially. Like what is said will get you to take an action, but it's the creative, right? That'll catch your attention. And creative, back to kind of as I was describing, like, if you've got an idea, it's one thing to know how to write it, but it's even harder to be a designer to like come up with that creative. And, in the past, you would have that and you would ask somebody to design it for you. You'd go to a place like Fiverr and say, hey, I want an image like this or I want that. Or you just source the internet looking for something that's free that you can use. But now you can have that idea, you can just write it out like, I want to run an ad and I want to attract people in this kind of neighborhood and this is where it is and the location, and maybe just give me like like a nice little suburban neighborhood on I somebody was saying yesterday, like on point 3 of an acre, and I want it to be a 3 bedroom 2 bath house. And it gives you this beautiful image to fit what you said, and then you can use that in your marketing. And I think that there's two things about that are really fun for real estate agents and business owners alike, is that it actually makes the process more fun, right? Because you get this really cool positive reinforcement. You had an idea, you put it out there, it gives you an image. If you don't like it, you try again, and you get that. Then you get to use it, and it's really like it's world class. Like a designer would create that for you, and it would probably cost a fair bit of money and fair bit of time, and you got it instantly. It's like you got this thought out of your mind and put it out there. So I think from the marketing side initially, and then we can go into some of like what you can use it for, like even follow up and communication. But from just the creative side alone, very exciting, very fun. Anybody can use it, and I think it really just makes the entire process just more enjoyable.
That's the part that I like, that when you said anybody can use it. Because when you haven't done it yet, it's like, oh my God, am I really going to be able to do this? Or, because you don't know how user friendly this really becomes. And trial and error, like you said, you don't like it. You'd say, no, I don't like this, change that. I want more windows, whatever it is that you want. Add some flowers, and you get whatever's in your imagination.
Yeah, and it just makes things so much more scalable. I mean, you're shrinking that time. You don't have to have somebody like on staff dedicated just to doing that. And it's so affordable and so scalable. Another use case for it that we found really useful, and I know a lot of agents find useful too, is like it's also hard to know what to say to something. So, for instance, like let's say you get a comment on your Facebook ad and somebody says something you're not really sure how to respond. Um, you can just take that, put it in AI, and say, "I'm running this ad, and I got this comment. What should I say?" And it's unbelievably helpful in those instances. We also built into our system, there's obviously both email and text messages taking place. And when somebody responds, we've even it's amazing usefulness. Like sometimes you'll give somebody some information, they might even say, thanks, but I'm not interested right now. You can even give that objection to AI and say, this is what I sent them, this is what they said. And the responses to turn that around or to ask another question are really good. And then you put it in, and lo and behold, you continue the conversation. And so that's why I said I think that all of the AI that we're seeing out right now is really real estate agents should make the most of it, because it's really easy, and it kind of helps smooth out the entire process, both from what to say, what to create, what images to use. And again, you can also stand out and be very different. So for instance, if you like an ad that somebody's running, in the past you would just launch it, verbatim, but now you could just tweak it ever so slightly and then launch it. And it's completely your own. It's unique to you, and it's probably going to work, or pretty close to it. And so all of that I think is really fun from a marketing standpoint. You can be a little bit different, but yet still on point. And you, again, like I said, you just kind of smooth out the process. So hopefully that answers the question of like the initial stuff I see with AI. And if you're not using it, why you should definitely be using it.
Yeah, I have
I got a question on the automation side, David, if you're okay with this, because we know in the industry, somebody asks a question and you're not available to answer in a timely fashion, like you're screwed. They're just moving on to the next person. No different in my business. Someone calls for a quote or they want some information about our service. We try to respond as fast as we can, but we know if we don't, because we're just tied up in a meeting, I'm doing a podcast for an hour and a half, I might lose something just because I'm doing the podcast for an hour and a half, because they can't wait an hour and a half anymore, right? So, when you talk about automation, is it risky to set things up, to give some sort of automatic reply when you're tied up for the whole day, but you've set up something that if anybody contacts me or I get something, I can at least get something neutral, without getting in trouble sent back to somebody, but at least I responded.
Yep. Oh, so you can take two approaches to that. So in our system, for example, you can set up and we always craft it like it's your assistant answering their question. So that way, if if you're busy and tied up in a meeting, somebody else is essentially sending this out. So that's one approach, and then you can just kind of pick up on that. But there are also really cool tools out there that are very real estate focused that will do pure automation for you. There's a company called Structurally. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. There's a bunch of them out there, and they actually do an incredible job of like an ongoing AI conversation with your assistant, and it's very, very good. And it can literally take you all the way to an appointment, and it can be done while you're in that meeting. So, if you want to lean into tools like that, there are some really great ones out there. And then what they do is they continually train that model based on real world experience. And because they're real estate focused, it's always getting better. And it's really good. It's not bad at all. And we've gone through some of their stuff with our system, and I've been very impressed with what it can do. So but again, that's more to your discretion, but then you can still see the whole history of the conversation. And, you can even individually train the model a bit yourself if you didn't like something, but it can be a great way just to keep that person engaged while you're not there as well.
Yeah, I have a bit of a confession to make. I actually used ChatGPT to come up with our whole itinerary for our podcast,
Yeah.
and
Thought so, because it was way more creative than you normally come up with. I didn't
yeah,
want to say anything, but it was like,
And the structure, right?
David's
The
got a new
structure looks
writer.
good too, right?
it was a great process. So what I did is I said, hey, research StreetText and Stephen Whiting, and they said and reference the David and David on Real Estate podcast, and ChatGPT came up and said, hey, Stephen Whiting has never been a guest, blah blah blah. I'm like, duh. I'm like, no, no, we want to bring him on as a guest. What topics relevant to the industry can we talk about? It took me 15 seconds. And then it literally, with no adjustments, it gave me our itinerary and our topics of discussions, and they were phenomenal. And I'm like, this is great. This is exactly how I would have structured the conversation, and so relevant to our users. So, it's been about 15 months now. I've been using ChatGPT almost on a daily basis. Everything from writing my speech at the awards ceremony to, like daily answering emails. Even this morning, I wrote an email to the registrar of the Real Estate Council of Ontario. And it was a great email. I wrote it myself, very passionate. And then I'm like, you know what? I think this could be written better. So I put into ChatGPT, and it, sure enough, it rewrote it, and it was way more impactful and even better than what I wrote it. So, I'm trying to get people around me, my staff, my managers, to spend more time and to use it, because it's another resource that, if used correctly, can really be impactful in everything that you do. And it's exciting. Like, I can do 10 tasks in an hour that would have taken me way more time back in the day. And my writing sometimes isn't a strong point of mine. I feel like I'm a great writer, but it takes me a long time to write good copy, just because I'm such a perfectionist. I think about, okay, what do I want to say? How do I want to transition? How am I going to structure my sentences? But now I can put my thought process into ChatGPT really in a paragraph. It's kind of like a word blurb. Hey, I want to talk about, the Bank of Canada interest rate announcement, and say, this is my prediction, what I think it means, right, based on these 10 newsletters that I wrote that are in ChatGPT. Write the next one in my tonality, based on what I want to say. And I literally write that paragraph in ChatGPT, and it comes up with the next email. I've been writing a newsletter for the other company I'm involved with on a weekly basis, and I do it in the same chat window. And it's just like, okay, we went to an event in Ottawa this earlier this week. So we've been advertising, we've been talking about this event. So we've written 4 newsletters based on attending that conference. So it's so easy to say, hey, rewrite that newsletter, add this, change this, word it that, it's starting tomorrow. And it's so simplistic and easy, and it's almost fun doing it.
Agreed. And what's cool about that too is, like, even if you attend an event and there's a whole bunch of like resources or information that you came away with, you can put all that into the chat as context.
Yes.
And so it gives all that insight. One thing that you probably know this already, but even when you're doing the writing, you should really consider always going back to the same like particular chat you had when you were writing something,
Yes.
because you're training the model on that context. And one thing that I'm doing a lot more of now too, and I actually save some of these so I have them available, is before I even ask a task, I really create a fairly extensive prompt.
Yes.
So in the case of writing, it's like, this is my style, this is what I like to say, this is something I've written in the past. Just so it's like you're giving all this context for it to refer to, and then when it writes it, it's more, you don't have to do as many tweaks. And then the cool thing is, if you keep going to the chat, it's keeping that context for every future thing you ask. And that's a little hack that, if you use it, a great example is marketing. Like, if you want to write Facebook ads, keep using the same chat when you're writing ads, because
Yeah.
it's like, this is what I like, this is what I like, this is what I like. So it's more likely to get that the first round.
Yeah, I'm noticing that, like, after 15 months, I have different chat windows open for the different things I do, like newsletter, Sutton Summit market updates, podcast itineraries, right? So then I go into it and I say, hey, based on everything that I've asked you in the past about this topic, now I want you to write episode 126, given this, and this. And, it references everything from above. I find that it's just, at the beginning, it was kind of frustrating in terms of how much prompting I had to give it
Mhm.
for the end product to be really good. Now I find that I have to give it minimum prompts. Like, for it to write the itinerary of this podcast was one prompt. And that's crazy.
Yeah, and you think about the time it saves you overall, right? And you think about then that incremental time over a week and then over a month. And that's why I love that you said you're getting everybody, like everybody in our team uses it in StreetText. And it's because I look at it and go, if it can make you 10% more efficient in your job, even 5% over a course of a year, that's huge. Right. And they'll get more experience with it and they'll start to grow. So, even our developers, like you should see some of the stuff on the development side, but it's really phenomenal. Like where you have this co-pilot program and as you're coding, you know, the AI is not only predicting what you might want to use next, but it has the context of the code base. So if you're doing something that might break some other part of the application, it is referencing that. It's giving you like a little bit of an alert. And you think about how much time that starts to, the magnitude of that over time, how much you save. It's a big deal. It's very cool.
Yeah. And honestly, for me, like it makes me excited about, getting tasks done because of the ease and effortless. And the other thing is I'm a big perfectionist. So if I look at something and I don't like it, sometimes I'm like, I just want to put it away. But if I look at it and I love it, it propels me to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and you never feel bad asking for more suggestions. Like, if somebody sends you a design or they created some copy for you, you kind of feel rude to that person, be like, you know what, I kind of like it, but give me 10 more.
Right.
Give me 10 more. And I want them right away. Like today, give me 10 more. And they're like, oh my goodness, you didn't like my work. And but with ChatGPT, you can be like, yeah, it's not bad, but I don't quite like it. Give me 10 more. And
Right.
it'll just be like, and you're like, okay, I like number 2 and 4, work with something there. And I think that's the other part that's just so good. You can just really work on it without ever feeling bad.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah, no guilt.
Awesome, Stephen. Well, this has been another great episode. Thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. And we're gonna have you back one more episode because you're based in the States and there's some big changes. And we all know about the lawsuit happening in the States, and we really wanted to talk to you and get your insights. I know you have some insights into what's happening and how some of those changes are going to influence and change some of the way that realtors are conducting business. And we'd love to learn more. David Corman and I, we always want to stay ahead of the game and ahead of some of those trends. So really want to have you back and discuss some of those changes that are coming down the line.
Well, thank you. I'd be happy to do that.